Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Coffee Corner. Today is your episode 98. I can't believe it. 2 more episodes, we're going to reach 100. Never thought about that. Today, we're going to continue to talk about the book I'm currently reading, Good Insight. Hopefully, you'll get something out of it. Okay. Today I want to talk about resilience and happiness. And when we are talking about happiness, we all know as a parent, or if your parents always say this and you remember, let me know, okay? They always want happiness for us. They said, I do everything for you. I want you to be happy. I want you to be happy forever. The reality is nobody can be happy forever. So in our childhood, our parents were trying so hard to filter out all the negative emotions, filter out everything that is not related to happiness. Well, of course, you have different definition of it. And by their definition, happiness means you're successful, you can support yourself, you will have a happy marriage when you are older, you will have your own family, or when you're younger, they want you to do well at school and they want you to go to really good university, get a good job, or things like that. So that's how they define happiness. For us, or for me, when I was thinking about that, I was thinking, well, my parents wanted me to be successful academically. So they could be happy, I could be happy, and everyone could be happy. But the most important thing for them is other people will be happy to see me being successful. I don't know if that's true, okay? But that's what they wanted. Anyway, so I'm going to start with some quotes and I'll give you my thoughts on the quote, how it inspired me to work on myself and how to be friend or how to reconnect with myself. So I have all the notes here. I have first a quote here. When we focus on happiness, we ignore all the other emotions that will inevitably come up throughout our kids' lives, which means we aren't teaching them how to cope with those emotions. So when I read this, I really remembered how my parents, let's say in that matter, how my parents were trying to mm, avoid teaching me all those negative emotions. But when I cry, when I scream, or when I have bad moments, they always told me that do not cry. Why are you always crying? Right? When they were punishing me, and then they also said that do not cry. Right? Why are you crying? Or when you have a difficult moments or when you have a difficult situation you want to deal with, and then I always tell you don't make a big fuss or something like that. So that was my parents. For our parents generation, they probably didn't really learn how to cope with those negative emotions as well. So for them, their parents had taught them how to avoid those things and how to focus on the positive part, how to focus on getting happiness. So for them, when they see negative emotions, they don't know how to deal with that and they start to freak out. And when they become parents and they parent us, and then of course they don't know how to do it as well. So when they see negative things happen, they freak out too, right? So what they do is to tell us, do not make big fuss, do not cry, do not be a baby. Well, we were a baby at that moment. And then what we learned is our negative emotions all got denied by our parents. So we thought, oh, those negative emotions are bad. We're not supposed to have them. And then when we are older, when we become adults, we start to get confused. Okay, I can't always have positive feelings. I can't always focus on happiness because by going to happiness, I have to go through a lot of negative emotions, a lot of ups and downs. How am I going to deal with that? Right. So for that matter, we don't know how to cope with that. And then we start to feel like I'm a bad person because I'm not supposed to have bad feelings. That's how I got some thoughts on this quote, and I was really thinking about my parents. And if you watch the previous video, I'm reading this parenting book as a self-help book. So it really helped me understand my parents, why they told me that back then, and why I am what I am right now, and how I can deal with that. So for myself now, I understand negative emotions are common. They're no bad or good, or there's no right or wrong. Those are your emotions, they're part of yourself. So you have to be really friend with them. You have to work with them and you have to reconnect with yourself to see, oh, I'm allowed to have those emotions and that's okay. And all the emotions are temporary and that's normal too. So that's how I'm getting a little bit calmer than before. And then when I see unwanted situations, unwanted emotions, I'm more like, that's okay. I know it's a temporary and it's part of me. So that's how I help myself using this book. Next quote, it says, the things that matter most take hard work and time. Helping your child build resilience certainly isn't easy, but I promise it's worth it. The reason I put this quote here is to remind myself that if you really want to have a solid foundation, it takes time and effort. If you want to become an easy so let's say if you want to have an easy parenting, you want to have a lazy parenting, of course you can. And but remember, when you have that, you're causing potential problems in the future. And when you see the problem, you can't blame your kids. Say, oh, you know what? Why are you doing this? You're so bad. You're not supposed to do that. But you didn't teach them how to deal with those kind of things. Back to our parents' generation, I think they were so focused on physical stuff, material, and resources and supplies, they can't really have time for us, or they can't really have time or sit down with us to really think about what we really need mentally or spiritually. And then when we have problems, they start to yell at us saying, now, why are you doing this? But back then, as a kid, I didn't know what to say because I didn't know how I grew up, how I'm wired, depending on how my parents teach me, how my parents react to certain situations. So, yeah, if you want to become a good parent, or let's say you don't want to become a good parent, but you want your kids to be able to live a good life, to support themselves, to be able to deal with a lot of situations, you're going to put a lot of time and effort in it. Now, there's no lazy parenting kind of thing. Okay. The next quote is, the distress grows and grows not as the reaction to the original experience, but because we believe those negative emotions are wrong, bad, scary, or too much. Ultimately, this is how anxiety takes hold within a person. Anxiety is the intolerance of discomfort. It's the experience of not wanting to be in your body, the idea that you should be feeling differently in that specific moment. And this isn't a product of being a downer or seeing the glass as half empty. It's a product of evolution. Our bodies will not allow us to relax if we believe that feelings inside us are overpowering and threatening. So, where's the happiness here? Well, it's crowded out. It cannot surface. What I like this is, again, we're so focused on happiness rather than on how to deal, or rather than the ability to deal with a lot of emotions. This author used an analogy here to say that, well, you have a jar and the jar is full of different emotions. But if you focus on certain things and you want to get out of some things, but then you're putting stuff in the jar and then certain things will be crowded out. And in this example, it says your happiness will be crowded out just because you were so focused on something else. When your negative emotions grow really fast, they're really bigger, and you don't leave room for other emotions. So that's why I was thinking about why this quote is very important for me. And as you know, I always mention that I had anxiety before, and now I'm thinking my anxiety was because I wasn't really comfortable with what's going on now, and I don't know how to deal with my negative emotions. I start to panic, and I feel like, oh, you know what? This is really bad. I should not have that. When I think about I should not have those kind of emotions, and I can't control that not having those emotions inside of my body, then I think about myself being a bad person because that's not what my parents want. My parents want me to be happy. How am I supposed to be very depressing? So that's how I related my emotions to my behavior. And overall, I can't control myself. I can't suppress my emotions. Then I explode. Then that becomes anxiety for myself. So that's why I think this is very important. And when I was child, all my negative emotions were denied by my parents or were not acknowledged or accepted by my parents because they thought kids were not supposed to have so many emotions. You're kids, you're supposed to be happy, you're supposed to be innocent. And of course, the most important thing, you're supposed to focus on your study, not other things. So when you have bad moments that say you don't know how to deal with your friends, or you have unwanted situation at school, you want to tell your parents and you're seeking for some support from them, they think you guys are just kids. Do kid stuff, it's not a big deal. Why are you doing that? And then you start to realize maybe that's wrong. And then you start to realize maybe I'm wrong. And then you're trying so hard to control yourself to be the perfect kid for them. But the more you suppress your emotions and feelings, the more you start to doubt yourself. And in the future, you become self doubt. very much. And then you tend to be like when people tell you you're really good and you don't believe it because nobody told you that. And then you always think, oh, there's something wrong. And I think that's how imposter syndrome comes from as well, because you start to doubt yourself. Because when you were a child, your parents who didn't really acknowledge what you really are back then. A lot of things got denied because you were supposed to focus on one single thing. So, anyway, that's this quote. I don't want to go too long. I have very limited time to do this video. Okay, so next quote is regulating our emotions essentially develops a cushion around those feelings, softening them and preventing them from consuming the entire jar. Regulation first, happiness second, and this translates into our parenting. The wider the range of feelings we can name and tolerate in our kids, again, this doesn't mean behaviors, the wider the range of feelings they will be able to manage safely, affording them an increased ability to feel at home with themselves. The reason I want to say this, I think the key word is regulation. This quote is not trying to tell you how to contain everything, how to manage everything properly. I think it's tell you when you are angry, when you are mad, when you're really sad, you want to scream, you want to yell, that is okay. But you have to think about yourself that when I yell, when I scream, I cannot hurt other people. This is how you regulate. When you are mad, and then people tell you you're not supposed to be mad. What are you going to do? You hold it until you can't, then you explode, and you're going to do some extreme things. That's what it says regulation first, happiness second. Why happiness second? Happiness is supposed to be the primary goal for us. No, because happiness is temporary. Unfortunately, everybody wants that to be good forever, but it's temporary. And what we can do is to manage and regulate so we know how to deal with when something bad comes to us, right? So if you can remember, well, I will talk about this in the later chapters next time. We're talking about tell the truth. If you can remember when something bad happened to your family, your parents decided to tell you the truth or they start to hide. So let's say talk about death, talk about sex, talk about gender equality, or other things that they don't want to talk about. They tend to hide it because they want you to feel happy. They don't want you to feel, oh, that's such a big sad news. You're a kid, you're not supposed to do it. But because you haven't experienced that, how are you going to manage that in the future? It's like a job, right? So you don't do it, you don't have experience. You don't have experience, you're not going to be able to handle that well. Right? So that's what I was thinking about this regulation thing. But of course, it says here, I really like it. So the wider the range of feelings we can name and tolerate in our kids. So as parents, think about your parents as well. When you have really different kinds of emotions there, feelings there, do they acknowledge that? Do they allow you to have those moments to digest it, to talk about those, or they decide to shut you down and say no, don't even think about it? Right. So if you decide to shut you down and say, don't even think about it, now, how do you react in a relationship? How do you react when you have so many feelings, so many emotions all kind of flooding into you? How do you react to it? Right. Think about that. I'm thinking about myself is I'm getting better, but in the past, I felt like it when they're so strong and so many um, feelings coming to me, I feel very overwhelmed. That's how I felt. And of course, I tended to do some kind of stupid things back then, but I couldn't help because I didn't know how to deal with it. So think about regulation first, happiness second, and think about yourself, your parents, or think about you as a parent. What do you deal with those things? Next quote is resilience in many ways is our ability to experience a wide range of emotions and still feel like ourselves. Resilience helps us bounce back from the stress, failure, mistakes, and adversity in our lives. Resilience allows for the emergence of happiness. So, you see, that's why we're talking about resilience. If you have a kid or you are a kid, think about yourself the whole journey of your childhood, of your teenager moment, of your adulthood. What were you learning? What are you learning? What have you been learning? Is the ability to deal with, or is the skills to deal with all the emotions or feelings, or is to focus on the goal, what you want, And then just to think about, forget about all the methods, forget about all the skills. I'm just focusing on the goal. I'm going to get it no matter what. Right. But after reading this book, I got inspired. I think as a kid, what you're supposed to learn is skills, not other things. You're not supposed to really focus on goals. You're supposed to focus on how to do things, right? The abilities. Once you have the ability, even without your parents in the future, you know how to deal with that. If you have something really big happen to you and you know how to deal with that, you're not going to explode because you know how to deal with that because your parents have taught you how to deal with that. You have acquired that skill to deal with that, right? So that's why I was thinking about resilience is such an important thing to have, yet not many parents focus on that, at least not my parents. But now I really want to focus on it, and because sometimes I could tell myself when I was trying to, I have to control myself, and I caught myself sometimes doing things for my little one because I was like, okay, he was supposed to crawl and to reach things, but I was like, oh my god, seeing him struggling there just makes me cringe, and then I want to get it for him. But now I learned, no, you're not supposed to get it for him. You're supposed to have him learn. He might experience some discomfort and unhappiness, but it's normal. Don't deny that. It's normal. If he cries, let him cry, right? If he yells, let him yell. If he screams, let him scream. It's a human. He's a human. He's allowed to have those emotions. And that's normal because he's not happy, right? So that's why I was thinking resilience is really, really important. So next, the quote is developing resilience doesn't mean we become immune to stress or struggle. These are, of course, unavoidable effects of life, but our resilience determines how we relate to those difficult moments as well as how we experience them. So once you have the resilience, you know how to deal with the stress and failure mistakes. Some people can't really encounter mistakes or failures because they were so focused on being successful. And that's what they're told by their parents. So once they have something they can't get, or once they do something they fail, they just feel like that's it. That's the end of life. I had the moment too. Remember, I said that when I failed the test to graduate programs in China, two times, twice, three times, I felt like that was the end of life because I I really use that to define myself. I think if I do it, then I'm successful. If I don't do it, I'm not myself anymore. But here it tells you that resilience teaches you to deal with those stress, failures, and the mistakes. And no matter what, you're still yourself, right? And you can come back and come back strong. And next, the quote is because we can always change the stressors around us, but we can't always work on our ability to access resilience. While you might have, you say, oh, okay, what? I figured out a way to deal with the stress now. But then you find out there's another stressors around us. How are you going to deal with that? You have your own way to deal with it. This is why we learn how to deal with that. We don't learn the thing. It's like 授之以鱼不如授之以渔. I think that's a Chinese thing. I will find a translation for that if I can. But you teach them methods. You don't teach them the cases, right? So you can give them cases and then let them work on that, but eventually you'll have to figure out the methods. And you can't really generalize all the cases, but you can generalize your methods. You can use this one, apply what you have learned to another situation. And that's what we call that resilience. Next one, building resilience is about developing the capacity to tolerate distress, to stay in with a tough, challenging moment, to find our footing and our goodness even when we don't have confirmation of achievement or pending success. That's what I just mentioned before, that even though you are still working on your way to success or on your way to your goal, you don't feel I'm getting nothing. So take this as an example, learning language as an example. Some of people say, I've been working so hard, I don't see any results. I've been practicing my speaking so hard, I still can't really talk naturally. I still can't really talk without thinking about translation. You're getting there, right? This is what we call pending success. It's right there. You just haven't reached out that yet, but you're working on it. Resilience will help you get through this difficult stage and then will help you get through the difficult moments. It will help you get through, oh, I haven't got anything yet. And once you pass this stage and you will see, hey, I see that. It's what we call 柳暗花明又一村, right? So that's how what we call the resilience. I really like this book. Next quote, it's from another book. It's called The Handbook of Resilience in Children. It says the qualities children most need from their parents in order to develop resilience include empathy, listening, accepting them for who they are, providing a safe and consistent presence, identifying their strengths, allowing for mistakes, helping them developing responsibility and building problem solving skills. So I underlined allowing for mistakes here. Think about your parents. How many of your parents allow you to make mistakes? I mean, not just small, tiny mistakes, some of them big mistakes. Uh, have they allowed you to have those mistakes? And also, have they showed their empathy for you when you have bad moments? Not like, oh, you're a little kid, you're not supposed to have that. Or, I really feel ill and I understand what you're going through, but let's go through that together. Have you had that moment? I'm thinking about myself. I actually never had that. And I think I wasn't allowed to have many mistakes because I was supposed to do really good. And then I can have good scores. I can go to good school. If I make any mistakes, it will lead me to a really terrible direction. But I kind of understand why they were so stressed about how I was doing at school because we're not from rich family. I didn't have resources to say, let's say we can't pay for the mistakes we made back then. The cost was just so high for us, and I understand that. But I think as parents, if you're in the same situations, it might be really difficult. And good things always are difficult, right? What you want to do is within your ability, can you try to let your kids or allow your kids to make mistakes? Can you just let them say, it's okay if you spilled the milk. It's okay if you didn't do well for this test. But just one time, can you allow them to have that moments? Can you allow them to have those mistakes? Because they have to learn how to deal with those mistakes. You can't say, oh, mistake, teach them mistake proof, and then say in the future they will never make mistakes. But what if they do and you're not around? How are you going to help them? Right. So that's what I was thinking about this one. Next one I started that says, am I helping my kid tolerate and work through this distress, or am I encouraging my child to avoid and be lying out of distress? I like those two questions. So you can ask yourself, or you can secretly ask your parents, right? So are you trying to help them face or encounter those negative emotions? Are you helping them really cope with those emotions? Say here, we can go through this together. You have me, you have my support. We're going to go through this strong together. Or you're that kind of parents, or your parents are kind of that parents, and you say, don't worry about that. I can't really explain. I can't really explain it. It's really bad. It's not your business. Don't focus on that. Focus on your study. Focus on something else, just not those negative things. So you can ask yourself. I was thinking about myself that my parents were more the latter one. They always avoid those negative things, and now I learned that habit. Right, I tend to avoid negative emotions. I tend to avoid the things I don't want. Of course, it's a human nature. You tend to avoid harmful things, but I think to be able to be successful, you want to be able to face it with the courage. You want to be able to deal with it, even though you might fail in that situation, but you still know it's okay. It's normal that you're allowed to have mistakes there, and but you have the courage to face all the emotions. You can analyze. You can do self-reflection. You can work on that. You can start to reconnect with yourself. Next quote encourages us to first be present in our child's experience instead of leading our child out of their own experience. It's kind of like connected to the previous quote. It's more you want to be there for them. You want to be there. Say it's okay to face them instead of saying that no. Forget about that. That's what I learned from this quote. Next quote. The more we emphasize our children's happiness and feeling better, the more we set up them for an adulthood of anxiety. Yeah. So what he says for this quote is, as a parent or your parents keep saying that happiness, happiness, this is good for you. I'm doing everything good for you. I want you to be good. I want you to be successful. I want you to be happy. So you are really like a laser focused on happiness. How are you going to have energy? So let's say, think about the jar. How can you have a space for other emotions, our abilities to handle those kind of unexpected or unwanted emotions, right? So that's why it says if you mainly focus on happiness or feeling better, when you don't have a happiness, when you don't feel better, you start to doubt yourself, you start to have anxiety because you think of yourself as a failure, as a loser, because you don't have those kind of things. And that's why he says the more we set up them for an adulthood of anxiety. So when you think about your own anxiety, do you think about yourself not being able to handle those emotions? Or do you think about yourself not being able to get happiness your parents will want? Right. So think about that. I really like this chapter. And that's why I want to do a whole episode for this. Okay, next quote. Adults whose childhoods were focused mainly on happiness are not only unprepared for tough moments, they experience more discomfort in those tough moments because deep down they think they're doing something wrong if they can't find the happy and get themselves to a better place. When it comes to resilience, what matters by adulthood is that we can manage distress because we had someone in our childhood who validated and allowed us to experience it. Right. So that's what I said before. Think about yourself when you were a child. Were your parents okay with your emotions? Were your parents saying that, you know, you can do whatever you want, explore and learn? That's your job. We're here to protect you mentally and physically. That's our job. Have you felt supported in those kind of moments? And have you felt more happiness? After you grow up. So think about that. For myself, it's hard because all my parents wanted is me to do well in the future, so they don't have to worry about me. But then for me, I have so much stress that I'm so worried I'm not gonna do well because I'm just gonna fail. And when I fail, then of course I feel really bad because I'm a bad kid. I disappointed them. I let them down. Right? That's how I felt about this quote here. But I hope in the future I can. I mean, right now I'm building resilience for myself. I'm building resilience for my little one as well. I really hope, by parenting him, by educating him, I'm learning as well. I'm trying to help myself as well. So that's why I'm reading this book as a self-help book, not a parenting book. Anyway, so last the quote. It's very important that if you're going to be a parent or you are parents right now, you're the architect of your child's resilience, and that is the ultimate gift you can give them. After all, successful managing life's many challenges is a person's most reliable path to happiness. Again, the ability you learn to deal with these things is what you need. And that will really help you get through the whole life, right? You don't want something because when you have the thing, you might lose it as well. There's no such thing called permanent, right? So what you can have is your own skills, is your own abilities. Doesn't matter if you're learning a language, learning other things, or learning this ability to deal with or manage or regulate your emotions and feelings. It's your own ability, and then this is the best gift you can give to your generation, to your kids, and then they will learn. And then in the future, when they are independent, you're not worrying about them too much because you know they're going to do well. You know they're going to handle a lot of situations. They might be able to help you as well. So that's why I think resilience is really important. That's why in this chapter it says resilience is greater than happiness. And that's my point of view too. Okay, so that's the end of this episode. I hope you like it. Next episode, we're going to keep talking about this book. Stay tuned. See ya.